we've got a few more people who have joined us now, so I think we should make a start. So good afternoon, everyone. It's 1 o'clock here in the UK, 2 o'clock in Belgium. My name's Stuart Russell, and thank you very much for joining us today. Over the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to be discussing our latest platform update. That's release 24.4 that went live on Tuesday of this week, as well as looking back to a couple of important last-minute additions to release 24.3 and looking forward to IBC in Amsterdam in September. As per usual, we are recording this webinar and we will make it available to you afterwards so that you can watch it again on demand. And if you have any questions, please hold on to them until the end of the session when we will have a dedicated Q&A segment. Joining me today, as you can see, a couple of very familiar faces. We have Linecraft co-founder Martin Verwest and we have Head of Product Nico Oertz. Welcome to you both. Martin, it seems traditional that we start with you, so we're not going to break with that. There are a few people, I think, who are on the call today who are maybe not so familiar with Linecraft. So can you perhaps take a moment and just give us a brief introduction?
Yeah, I'd love to. We'll not need 10 minutes for the introduction, but so for those who are not familiar with Linecraft yet, started the company in the meantime 14 years ago, delivering services to producers, broadcasters, content operators alike. With permission, I think we were the first to make a proper implementation of AI and AI transcription, which was then converted into a subtitling solution for the BBC, and the rest is history. We've just published our numbers of the last fiscal year, made it nicely profitable, and doing fine. So Linecraft helps you managing storage costs. We help you automating ingest in very large volumes. We don't operate on live content, but we can do a lot on non-live, 10 times faster in real time. We enable you to collaborate online, notably review sharing functions and remote editing. We help you managing a versioning and a content delivery problem, all of that with the least possible environmental impact and designed according to the highest security standards. All of this you can find on our website. So Linecraft understands the world of producers and editors, the creative bit. Linecraft also understands the more technical bits like ingest, transcoding, and storage. We know there is hundreds of deliverables flying around in a creative shop, and it's our ambition to provide you with a single umbrella solution to structure any unstructured information that may be flying around over there. Just one example. I know there's a few people from Arrow Media here in the call. Thanks for joining. This case is also nicely documented with workflow schema on our website. It's the case of Arrow International Media. Currently, 70,000 hours of brushes stored on our platform on various types of storage, ingesting slightly over 1,500 hours per month, and a good portion of that is indexed, logged automatically or semi-automatically using speech transcription and image recognition. The people of Arrow Media will testify that without artificial intelligence, these numbers would simply be impossible to digest. It's a very high value-added tool for edit producers dedicated to finding the right material in the shortest possible time frame. It's like an edit assistant in a box. Great place on our website if you're interested in the details. Without further ado, Stuart, I think we're going into the latest release.
Yeah, we're going to take a step forward to take a step back. We're going to talk, I think, first of all, about a last-minute addition to release 24.3 that you can see on the screen there that came out in May. And that last-minute addition really relates to the subject of thesauri. And Martin, you and I have talked about this separately, and I know from that conversation that it's a much more important topic than it might appear on the surface. So perhaps that we could dig into that in a little bit more detail and just talk about why it's important and why it matters.
Yeah. So the latest release brought to life the day before yesterday, 24.4, in a series of 8 releases per year. This is a fixed schedule. Every 6 weeks we release a new version. And somewhere in between, we made available Thesauri. Thesauri were, Thesauri were part of the 24.3 release, but we've got several questions from users where to access it, what purpose it serves. So we thought it would be good to have a little recap in this session. So, a thesaurus, it's a difficult word, but in fact, ladies and gentlemen, it's no more than a dictionary, a list of agreed terms. Thesauri are a way of specifying your naming conventions from the top down. If you're a small-sized content agency, it's less of a problem, but the bigger your company, the larger your stock of material, the more it becomes increasingly challenging to find the right pieces of content, to navigate to the right content. And that's because all of us are tagging content using natural language words, and natural language is prone to synonyms and homonyms, which make it difficult to be sure that you're finding the right content. Think of a thesaurus as the disambiguation feature of Wikipedia. If there is a specific word that can have 2 meanings, Wikipedia will first of all throw a pop-up saying, I've understood what you're looking for. Is it term A or B? And this is how a thesaurus, if properly implemented, will help you in managing data, making the right transcriptions, etc. Company like Disney has several taxonomy managers being responsible for managing the company-wide thesauri. So here are a couple of real-life examples. If Premier League Productions, whose customer house is using speech transcription for subtitling their content, it is vital that they can give the engine a list of 600 football players. The majority of them of non-British origin, and proper names are typically hard to understand by automatic speech recognition. This is why subtitlers of IMG or Premier League Productions can feed the list of football players. Other examples include program names, and if you look at it from a distance, that starts from the top with the name of the program group, and then probably 1 or more seasons, and within a season you might have episode 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. When you as a producer have to deliver masters to the broadcaster or to the streamer, chances are you will be selecting these names from a thesaurus just to make sure that all involved parties are looking at the same master data. Terminology for transcription, program names, Cast and crew. Starting with a drop-down list with the different types of crew members and then the names that are linked to it. If you start thinking about it, thesauri and taxonomies are all over the place. And we've discovered that the larger the content operations, the more there is a need for managing these lists of words from a top-down level. It allows you to do data validation at the source. It's critical for search efficiency, and it's also used in the user interface, as you can see here, to group. Grouping shots in a scripted context is easy. You have a scenario, you just need to link the takes to the shots and the shots to the scenes, and basta. In a documentary context, it's more of a challenge, and there we see typically shoot IDs, role IDs, and any combination thereof, which if everybody's consequently using the same naming conventions, that can be used to drive the layout in the user interface, which is specifically or particularly important if your production goes to thousands of clips. Now, how it works in Linecraft, how to set it up in Linecraft depends on the use case. And here's where this is part of the confusion we mentioned. When you have the intention to use the thesaurus as to populate your data model as values in the dropdown of a field, thesauri are managed on the level of the account, so not in the individual workspace, on the level of the account. You set up one or more of those taxonomies, and then if your production administrator creates custom metadata fields in an individual workspace, rather than to qualify it as a text or a number or a date, if there is a thesaurus, it will pop up as a type of metadata field, and the workspace administrator can simply cherry pick the taxonomies that are relevant to this particular workspace. In a completely different use case, you can also provide your workspace with lists of words. In this case, they are called custom dictionaries, and that's where they need to be used in the dropdown when you start transcription processes. So on the one hand side, thesauri are used to populate fields and to drive navigation in the user interface. Other types of thesauri can be used for ensuring recognition of the right words, and it's two methods. I think, Nico, in the future we might look at more harmonizing the management of these taxonomies, but for the time being, these are the two entry points. I hope this makes sense and that clarifies a bit our position on how you can manage thesauri in your Linecraft workspace. If you have any questions at all, please use the chat function, or you can send them across using support@linecraft.com after the event.
Thanks for the overview, Martin. Yeah, it's a really powerful and very, very useful piece of functionality within the platform. Nico, let's turn to you. As Martin said a little bit earlier there, release 24.4 came out on Tuesday of this week, and I know that we've added quite a lot of, or made quite a few quality of life improvements to the platform. Could you take us through what's new, please?
Yes, let me share my screen. I'll start with first giving some context. So the first change we did is related to the ingest process. You can get material into Linecraft in a few ways. You can just drag and drop onto the browser. But of course, if you're in more batch work and have multiples of cards or rushes you need to get in the platform every day, then we have a specialized tool for this. It's called Edge. It's a local application which you can run on Windows or on Mac. It has few functionalities inside the application. It starts with importing the media and creating backups. And that's where we did some changes. I'll explain in a minute. The Edge tool has other capabilities like media sync. That means it can sync different video tracks and audio tracks, which are typically in separate files. Can sync it together and create proxies out of it. You can do a full ingest both towards a viewable proxy into the platform, but you could also create edit proxies in different flavors. And finally, the Edge application also has the capability to, in batch, download multiples of files from the platform and put them on your local drive. So that's how the Edge application works. The change we did is related to the import and backup scenario. So typically you would select your media. Is it in a single folder or a folder with multiple cards in it, or a volume? That's a typical way you start working. We're not going to go through that complete process, but typically what you define here is, where are my cards? Do I want to create a backup? Where is my metadata into the card structure? And that's how you configure it. The change we did is related to the backup location and to the file renaming capabilities of that backup. So now let me take you to the settings and the platform. So typically, if you would look at the platform, you have a workspace. Within that workspace, you have a few collections, which probably are the result of the ingest operation. It contains some metadata like a shooting date and camera data, for example, in this case. And you have different clips in there. As I said, the change we did is related to the backup location and the file naming properties. So this is sitting on the Edge settings in the Edge metadata. So we reworked this section of configuration items. So the first thing where you have more flexibility, is how the data is ingested into the flow system, into the central system. This actually defines the way collections are created. So now you can actually have any property which is available in the system as one of the collection items. Typically, we capture this kind of metadata through the folder structure of the source card or the camera card. That's the work of Edge. Once you have that metadata, you can use it here into the collection structure and how you want to structure those collections. We also give you an overview of an example, how it would be structured. And we also explain how it results into different collections, sub-collections, and some tagging, which will be available. The second thing is how it's put on disk when you do a backup. This is also more flexible. That was a little bit limited in functionality. Now you can actually create any folder structure you want. So you can just keep adding slashes and properties and create actually the folder structure you want with the different metadata you captured. You can also use some fixed data, etc. This is how you are organizing your material on your backup drive if you present it to Edge. The final part of this is how the file renaming is done. So in this case, we have also a number of tags we use in a file name structure. So for example, this uses a shooting day, also a fixed value of maybe the production name, camera name, location. Everything you define into custom fields, etc., can be used. And we also have some system tags like the file name itself or the file extension, which can be added to this file naming scheme. And this is actually, again, when you do the backup, when you go from a source card or a camera card onto a backup location, you can first define how it's been organized in terms of folder structure. And secondly, you also have control over the file naming of all your files which land on that backup storage. And this summarizes the changes we did on both folder structures and file renaming.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Nico. Martin, we're going to come back to you. I know that we've traditionally taken an awful lot of care at Limecraft over how our platform integrates with products from other companies, and I understand that we've recently made a few updates with regard to our integration with Adobe solutions. Could you talk us through that, please?
Sure, I can. I'm not sure who in the audience is aware that Limecraft developed a panel for Adobe Premiere Pro. There are similar integrations in Avid, but it's the panel in Premiere which has got a significant update in the latest release. For those who are interested in using the panel for transcription and subtitling, it can be downloaded free of charge from the Adobe Exchange, and then it's pretty much self-explaining how you get it up and running in Premiere. What it does is, after logging in, obviously the panel is another client, and for security purposes you also have to log in the panel. Once logged in, the panel presents you with an overview of accessible workspaces, and for this little demo we'll take Videolabs. It's a staging environment, and there's been a few updates in the behavior of the panel. First of all, from an administrative point of view, or more, you can make a few configurations where the files are locally stored, etc. But more importantly, when you're uploading a sequence from your local Premiere environment into Limecraft, I'm not exporting from Premiere, and I'm not manually dragging and dropping the file from my desktop into Limecraft. This is handled in the background. It has to make an encoded version of the render, but now it's done. It's now transferring in the background to Limecraft. If I hit refresh, we see that this file has arrived on our platform. And if it's probably still processing, let's in the meantime give it the instruction to subtitle it. Before this last May release, you could just pick the language. In this case, it's an English clip. Yeah, audio issues. It's an English clip. But as of this release, you get all the options you expect. You can use otherwise in Limecraft Flows. You can also now upload an existing master subtitle file you'd like to use for versioning, or you can pick one of these custom dictionaries we talked about a couple of minutes ago. So thesauri names of lists are centrally configurable in your workspace or higher up on the level of the account, and they become visible and usable downstream, down to in the Adobe panel. Another option we made available is that you can pick from the existing spotting templates, which may or may not make subtitles for a regular television set with 40 characters on a line, or make subtitles for social media, which is usually restricted to 27 characters on a line, etc. These options are now available in the panel. Then just hit generate, and in a couple of seconds this clip will be transcribed in the background. You see it in 1 second. Transcribe will take 10 or 20 seconds, I believe. If it's rush hour 30, then it will make the subtitles, and then you can simply drag and drop the subtitles back on the timeline of your editor without leaving Adobe Premiere Pro, without having to manually copy and paste files from Adobe into Limecraft and back. We'll leave it on for just a couple of seconds. If there is any questions in the meantime, please use the chat function. I think, Stuart, you're on it. If there is any questions landing. While this is ongoing, I can maybe give back the handle to you, Stuart. We'll leave it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you very much for that information. And if anybody watching wants to know any more about what we're doing with Adobe, then you can visit the partner page on our website. Adobe are listed on there, and you'll get some more information about the work that we do together. Let's go on now and have a conversation about IBC. We know it's not officially summer just yet, and of course nobody wants to wish the next 2 months away. But of course, we are naturally planning for IBC in September. And in previous webinars, we've talked a little bit about media intelligence, and that's Limecraft's vision of AI designed specifically for media and production professionals. Now, when we get to Amsterdam in September, we're expecting to be talking quite a bit more about this and unveiling some developments in this area. Martin, could I maybe ask you just to give everyone watching a bit of a sense of what we're doing with this?
Yeah, sure, I can. Means we're at last chapter. Oh, need to share my screen. There we go. So, final part of the webinar, sneak preview of what Limecraft is about to present at IBC, and we're going to take a serious leap in the evolution of artificial intelligence for the purpose of media production. Especially when libraries grow to very large numbers, when you have to ingest thousands of hours of raw material per month. Handling those media is a challenge if you're using manual logging, but also if you only have a naive implementation of AI, you will bump into the restrictions. And further downstream, appropriate use of AI is also very important to manage the versioning process, to make sure you can output, as a producer, you can output multiple values of the same, multiple versions of the same asset at a fraction of the cost. Here is the key problem. Oversimplified, we understand, but most AI point solutions are obviously prone to errors for the reason we mentioned earlier. If you're using speech-to-text recognition for processing natural language, which is full of synonyms and homonyms, there will be interpretation errors. Certainly when you look to image recognition, the amount of data which is not retrieved is enormous. The amount of false positives can be horrible. And we know from experience, some of our customers are heavy users of image recognition and automatic speech recognition, that if you don't take a lot of care in the implementation and the training, the results will be moderate, if not completely useless. Also, by experience, by fine-tuning the process, we've discovered that if you enrich the enrichment process, if you feed it with production documents such as call sheets and production briefings and a list of people that are featured in the image, which you probably have, chances of recognizing the right people dramatically increase. Also, we're doing our best, we're trying as much as possible to capture information which is implicitly added by edit producers, for example, by adding terms to the custom dictionaries, etc. We try to capture as much as possible from the media production intelligence together to bring to ensure a more complete, a more accurate, and a 100% usable result. More schematically, this is what Limecraft is currently developing, and which you will see appearing in the coming months. Please do visit us at IBC if you want to have a sneak preview. As a matter of fact, this is not rocket science. It's using any pre-existing metadata which we can get out of pre-production or production, cleaning it by applying thesauri and taxonomies, enforcing the data model, using that data as much as possible to use as input for the AI engines, and then reconciling that, boiling it down into a single index, which basically allows you to run a single search query in your database of thousands of clips, looking for clips where master X, Y, Z is using these or these words. So combining all the different aspects coming from audio, visual, and any pre-existing metadata, which we've labeled media intelligence, and which, according to many of our customers, makes a lot of sense. It will, in return, you'll get a much more usable transcription with the names of the people where they need to be. You'll get good usable overviews with separated per shot, avoiding redundant text, avoiding false positives at the source, and in the end allowing you to retrieve the right bits of material much faster and more efficient, especially when your database grows to very large numbers. That's what we have in mind for this year's IBC.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting just to see how that develops over the next couple of months. I know we've got a few other tricks up our sleeve for Amsterdam. So just a couple of final kind of housekeeping points from me on IBC. Firstly, we will be in Hall 7. Our booth is 7D11 this year. We'll be there throughout the event, and we would love to see you. So if you go onto our homepage, you will see a link to a contact form to book a meeting with us. Please do make use of that. We'd love to get some time with you during the event. Secondly, we'd also like to get some feedback from you today on a couple of ideas that we have for the show. For IBC this year, if you are not an existing Limecraft customer, and I think there are a few of you on the call, we would like to offer you a little incentive to come and see us. So how about this? if you book an IBC meeting and then you come and see us during the show for a demo, we'd like to propose that as a thank you, we will sign you up for a 3 free month trial account of the platform so that you can get to know the platform better and you can see how it really can help to drive workflow efficiencies. So that's 3 free months use of the platform with no obligation to continue beyond that point. If you are an existing Limecraft customer, don't worry, we've got a proposal for you too. If you sign up for a meeting and visit our booth, we'd like to say thanks by giving you 1 free day of the Workflow Doctor. Now, what's the Workflow Doctor, I hear you ask? Well, it is 1 free day with a Limecraft solutions expert in person, either on your premises or remotely if you prefer. And during that day, that Workflow Doctor will look at your setup and suggest areas where further improvements or further efficiencies might be possible. Think about it like a health check and a vitamin boost for your workflows. Again, there will be no charge for this. What we're proposing is that you book a meeting, come and see us, and we find a date between the end of the show and the end of the year, some date that suits you and suits us, and we will then send the doctor out to see you. We hope that that's something that's interesting to you. We hope you can see some value in that, but we'd love to know what you think about those 2 ideas. So please do drop your thoughts or your comments into the chat before we finish up today. And if there's anything that we need to follow up with you directly, we would be very happy to do so. I think that's everything that we need to talk about as far as IBC is concerned. So let's go on to the Q&A session. If anybody has any questions that they would like to ask, please do drop them into the comments now. There was one question I saw there from somebody with regard to slides. Yep, absolutely. Yeah. We will be very happy to make the slides available to you after the event. And as I said right at the start, we'll also send you a link to the recording of today's session if you want to watch us again on demand. But if you have any questions, now is your time. Please don't be shy. No, I don't think we've got any questions. No, I think you 2 guys have done such a good job that nobody needs.
Well, thank you very much, Stuart. That's too much honor here.
Okay, well, if there are no questions, then we can bring things to a close there. Thank you to Nico and to Martin for your time today. Thank you to everybody who's joined us. As always, if you have any questions after the event, then you can get in touch with us via the Contact Us form on the website. Alternatively, you can use info@limecraft.com or support@limecraft.com, either or. They will both get to us and we will respond to you as quickly as we can. I think that's it for today. Thank you very much for joining us. We will see you again in August. I think that's going to be our next webinar. We're going to give you July off, so we will see you again in August. We'll publicize the date of the next webinar in August fairly soon.